What is up, everybody? Jester here, and today for the third consecutive video I am back in No Man's Sky. And yes, we are going to continue to talk about Hello Games releasing poor updates, broken updates, but today we're going to go about it a little bit different. I'm not going to do the ranty stuff that I've been doing in the last couple of videos. Today we're going to do a little more of a fireside chat, and I'm going to talk to you about, number one, the effect I think this is having on the community and how it's affecting Hello Games' numbers. But I also want to talk about a solution, because I think there's been a solution in front of Hello Games for years now that they just have not implemented or even tried. And I think it would very much minimize the amount of really big broken things that come out on day one for an update. Before we get to my first points, though, I do want to say thank you to those of you that came into the comments and wanted to have an honest conversation. I don't think anything actually gets solved until we can actually speak on a topic and both sides hear the other one. So for those of you that came in and did that, thank you, thank you, thank you. For those of you that came in and wanted to call people or me a stupid dumbhead, you can miss me with that crap. I'm never going to listen to you because it's an invalid point at that point. It makes no sense and it adds nothing to either side. So, but again, thank you to those of you that took the time to actually conversate about the topic. So for me to get into what I think it's doing to the community, I got to go to the SteamDB chart first. This chart represents the lifetime concurrent player count for No Man's Sky when it comes to Steam. This isn't going to include PlayStation or Xbox or Switch for that matter, but I think the trend itself, even though it's only PC, it applies to the game and gamers, not so much the actual numbers itself, but trends is what I'm getting at here. So obviously when the game launched, it was a massive expectation on it, over 212,000 players, and it quickly fell like a rock to almost 2,000 concurrent. And I'm not here to talk about the release or if it was disastrous or who was to blame. That's a topic for another day. What I want to talk about is these huge spikes and then these giant declines, and how I think other games are kind of getting around that, and how I also think this lifetime chart doesn't really tell the whole story. This is the same chart for the game that I'm most into playing right now, which is Conan Exiles. I'm having a great time over there. Don't forget to subscribe if you guys want to see more kind of tutorials and walkthroughs on some of the dungeons and that. But I wanted to point this one out, not because of that, but because you can see the player retention is about similar to No Man's Sky at its highs and lows. Yes, there's spikes, and most of those were free weekends, and some of them are going to be updates that coincided with free weekends. But you can see now that the numbers have started to decline because they haven't really done a whole lot with the game, and it was just announced here recently that they're not going to be doing any more content updates. They're going to be working on actual bug fixes and stuff, which is about time. And a lot of people are saying that's probably the end of life cycle for Conan Exiles, that there may not be any more meaningful updates with this game. But just notice that the trend is kind of the same, with about the same player counts, even though this game didn't have the hype that No Man's Sky had. 7 Days to Die is an even older title than No Man's Sky. Now, granted, 10 to 11 years of that was early access, but as of last year, it went into full release, and it's been pretty popular. But you can also see that this line goes up. The game gained popularity as they kept working on it. And most of these spikes are going to be the new alphas that released, whether it was 16, 17, 18, 19, so on and so forth, all the way up here to release. And now you're seeing this sharp decline in concurrent player base. Well, I think the explanation for this is that now they've got kind of what they've got. You're not going to get any more alphas when it comes to this game. Sure, the fun pimps are going to work on this and probably, tweak character models and maybe even combat or some mechanics of the game. But pretty much what you've got is what you've got for the duration of this game now. But the thing that I want to show you is more in the shorter trends, okay? So you see here, yes, the game kind of goes down a little bit, and then it kind of pops up a little bit. And these peaks and valleys are basically week to week at this point of, weekend to weekday type of situations. And you're going to see that kind of repeated in the games that I'm going to show you. But just know this is pretty normal player retention when it comes to even a 3-month cross section. Going back to Conan Exiles, on that same 3-month cross section, it's basically the same thing. You see the peaks on weekends and the valleys, but you do also see an overall downtrend on this one. And again, there's an explanation for it. And that's going to come back here in a minute, by the way, so stay tuned. The explanation is, again, they're not going to be doing any more content, and they haven't done any brand new content for a while on this game. Sure, there's been some events in game and stuff that have maybe made that number fluctuate a little bit, but now with the announcement that they're just going to be working on bug fixes, the number I expect will probably continue to decline a little bit, and a lot of people, again, are saying that this is probably the end of the life cycle for Conan Exiles. Next, I wanted to show you an example of an atrocious version of this chart, and that's going to be for Starfield. I think we can all agree this one is the worst one that we've looked at thus far. Started at almost 331,000 players and then basically nosedive. And it looks bad right here. It looks horrible. But when you really look at it in the cross-section of 3 months like we've been looking at, you can see the same peaks and valleys week to week that you see in all the other games. The difference here is this game has player retention. It goes from about 8,700 down to about 6,800. So there's like 1,000 player variance here, 2,000 player variance. There's a loyal base for this game. I don't think there's a lot of copies being sold of this game right now. And these are the people that will go into the forums, they will go into comments, and they will defend their game at all costs. And what if I told you that this is extremely similar to No Man's Sky, even including the numbers that we're looking at for Starfield, the game that we said was the worst chart that we've looked at yet? Finally, I want you to see the 3-month cross-section for No Man's Sky. And I want you to note that it's not as uniform as the other 3 games we looked at, where you can clearly see the peaks and then the valley and then it kind of comes back up. The fluctuation week to week here is a lot higher. And there's an explanation for that. That's because during this time frame, there wasn't a whole lot going on. There was no real new updates. They were just doing redos of the expeditions. So what I can tell you for sure is that when there was nothing else to do, these players were playing this game. That makes this your player base. It ranges from about 21.5K all the way down to about 8,200. So I think we can average that out to somewhere between, say, 15 and 16,000 concurrent players. That's basically your player base that will go into people's chats, will go into comment sections, go into forums, and they will defend Hello Games and its practices against anything. Everything Hello Games does is gold to them because this is their chosen game. Same as you're seeing for the Starfield folks. It's just that this game has higher numbers because, well, No Man's Sky still sells copies and it's just a more popular game. So now I've gone out to 1 year of tracking when it comes to concurrent player counts on SteamDB. And you can see that sometimes we go over that, say, 16,000 average players that we think we're going to have. And sometimes it goes way below. I mean, sometimes it even goes a little lower than that. And then it all kind of culminates in Worlds Part 1 release at almost 55,000 players. But you can see there's a pretty sharp drop off, and it comes basically right back down to that median number that we've been talking about. This is back down to the main player base. What I want to talk about is what happened between here and there. You see this massive spike. Why did they lose that massive spike? You know, there's 2 types of players, 3 types of players really that are playing right now. There's the loyal players that are in this spike. There's the players that own the game that are coming back simply because there's an update. And then there's the brand new players that either bought the game or they're still pretty new to the game and they're playing. So why does it drop off so fast? Well, to me, that means one of 2 things, either, and maybe both, if I'm being honest. It means Hello Games is just not putting enough stuff in the game to really retain people till the next update. Or it means that people are coming in and they're not liking what they're seeing, i.e. buggy releases, and they're leaving. I've heard many comments on both the Steam forum and in my comments saying, yeah, I played it, it was too buggy, I quit. And that's why I think this is an absolutely valid point. And it really doesn't matter as to what metric you look, by 3 years, by 6 years, by maximum. You can clearly see these peaks and falls. And that's them losing the opportunity to retain players when it comes to No Man's Sky. So the bigger question is, how do we actually solve it? Before I get to my solution for fixing the buggy release problem in No Man's Sky, I want to offer up a little more information and kind of clarify my point of view when it comes to the 2 main arguments that people make against the things that I'm saying. The first argument is, it's free, shut up. And that's pretty much the argument. There is nothing else to it. And I don't think that's actually the case. Yes, it's free to you or me, but we did pay for the game. The only way Hello Games make money on this game currently is for them to sell more copies, meaning they have to make these updates. And if they don't make them free to everybody, it's going to end up costing new players a ton of money. This is all part of their business model. So what's free to you and me is the way they make their money and continue to be able to operate as a business. So I don't think that the free thing means anything. Not to mention that just because something's free, it doesn't make it good in any way. There's tons of free games on Steam that you can go get right now and you can go play. Some are worth your time, some are absolutely not worth your time, but free doesn't mean good. So for anybody thinking that it's free, shut up. You're not looking at the bigger picture. This is Hello Games' business model. We would have quit this game long time ago had they not been making updates for it. And because they're making updates, they're still selling more copies. It goes hand in hand. The second main argument is, well, they need more time. Just give them a week. Well, the counter argument is, well, then take a week before you release it and fix it. And what I've kind of learned is that's not as easy as it may seem, but the solution I have for this is pretty simple. Hello Games has had the framework to do something about this for years. It's right here on Steam. If you go into your page and you right click on No Man's Sky, go down to properties, come over here to betas. And under betas, they have the experimental branch. Now, I'm being told that really the main problem they have that they can't test before release. So the reasoning they release something that's broken and then let everybody report all the bugs is because there's too many GPUs in the world. Well, guess what? You have an experimental branch where you wouldn't even have to put the entire update on the experimental branch. You could put aspects of it on the experimental branch, and then you could track whatever GPUs people are using. Now, look, Xbox and PlayStation and Switch, those are pretty uniform GPUs. There are hundreds of varieties of actual GPUs for PC, so I understand that this could be an issue for them testing. But those same developers that are working on testing that they're doing without these experimental branch uses, they could be used in the experimental branch and taking notes and figuring out how things work. Now, the reason they don't want to do this is because it's going to alienate console users. They're going to be mad because PC people got to see it first. And I understand that. But at the end of the day, what looks better? When you release a more polished product or when you release something that doesn't work as intended and it takes 2 weeks to get it fixed? I don't understand the logic when they have the capability of doing this. Some people will say, oh, well, they don't have the money to do this. They've got the experimental branch, and I'm certain they've got at least somebody that's trying to do the testing. This would aid that terribly. You know, do you have a 3060? Do you got a 4090? Do you got the brand new 5080, 5090? What do you have? And then they would know, hey, this is how this works with that. They wouldn't have to show it all. If they did a private beta, they'd probably have to get into actual cost. And I understand they don't want to do that. And then we might even be skirting the boundary of having to sign non-disclosure agreements and things. And I don't think they want to get into that. And I'm sure the gamers don't want to get into that. But if they wanted me to come in and participate in their experimental branch and see how something works, and that would aid a release coming out and it wouldn't be completely broken on day one, I would do that for them for free, because we're doing it for free now. We're absolutely their game testers. They're just releasing it and they're saying, here it is. It's all here. We did all these things. Now give us a couple of weeks to make it all work. I don't, how is that the biggest update in years if things aren't working as they're supposed to? And I know there's always going to be unforeseen issues that come up when it comes to this. There's going to be bugs. Nothing is perfect. And I'm not advocating for perfection. What I'm advocating for is them to try to minimize it. They have never really tried to minimize this at all. And the experimental branch would be an awesome place to do that. Do I think Hello Games is going to implement this anytime for No Man's Sky? No. I think it's too close to the end of the life cycle for No Man's Sky. I hope that maybe this reaches them and they give it a try. Heck, you could hide the assets, not show anybody. That way you get to keep your secret about the update. But then you would have a better understanding of how things work with different GPUs and different systems and things like that. I think it would be invaluable information for releasing a product that is a little more polished. And at the end of the day, anybody that tells me they would rather wait a week or two for something that came out today to be ready and not be more ready on day one and then clean up a few bugs here and there going forward, I don't see how you can honestly make that argument. Like, it would be so much better if it was just better on day one. That's all I'm getting at. You know, at the end of the day, I wanted Hello Games to make me want to play Light No Fire, and I don't want to play Light No Fire. So that's why I can tell you guys today, I won't be covering or playing the game, unfortunately. And I doubt I'm going to do a whole lot more No Man's Sky content because there's just not enough to do in the game. So I fall into the category of just give me something to do. This new release is supposedly in-game, but honestly, the only thing in-game about it is you have to have pretty good gear and hazard protection to be able to stand on these gas giants. That's about it. Other than that, it's just gated behind a couple of different old mission sets, the Artemis quest line and the Autophage quest line. So you've got to complete both of those. Other than that, to me, it's not really an end-game thing. And, you know, the gating thing we can talk about another time, I guess, but that's not what we're here to do today. Today, I've offered you guys what I'd love to see them do, and I even showed you why I have the viewpoint I have with hard numbers. And you guys saw the numbers would go way up, and then they'd come way down real quick, and you'd be right back to that median number, and you lose all those players in between. Why? It's probably a combination of both of the reasons I gave you. The fact that everything is a buggy mess, and the fact that there's just not enough content in the game to play. So, I don't know. Look, if you guys want to have a good conversation about it, this is my final words on it, other than in the comments. So, if we're not going to agree, you guys can move on from the video. If you want to have an actual discussion about it, I'm happy to do so, because I think it's a good conversation to have. You know, I want to understand more, and I want you guys to understand where this side of the argument's coming from as well. So hopefully today, in a more calm manner, we did that. And hopefully you guys liked that. And if you did, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Till next time, guys, thanks for watching. Bye.